Miss Julie, Swedish. Fröken Julie is a naturalistic play written in 1888 by August Strindberg. It is set on Midsummer's Eve in the following morning, which is midsummer and the feast day of Saint John the Baptist. The setting is an estate of a count in Sweden. Miss Julie is drawn to a senior servant, a valet named Jean, who is well-traveled and well-read. The action takes place in the kitchen of Miss Julie's father's manor, where Jean's fiancée, a servant named Christine, cooks and sometimes sleeps while Jean and Miss Julie talk. Johann August Strindberg, Stern D. Ber, 1, Swedish. Oststrandberg, I, the 22nd of January 1849, 14 May 1912, was a Swedish playwright, novelist, poet, essayist and painter. 2, 3, 4, a prolific writer who often drew directly on his personal experience. Strindberg wrote more than 60 plays and more than 30 works of fiction, autobiography, history, cultural analysis, and politics during his career, which spanned 4 decades. 5. A bold experimenter and iconoclast throughout, he explored a wide range of dramatic methods and purposes, from naturalistic tragedy, monodrama, and history plays, to his anticipations of expressionist and surrealist dramatic techniques. 6. 7. From his earliest work, Strindberg developed innovative forms of dramatic action, language, and visual composition. 8. He is considered the father of modern Swedish literature, and his The Red Room, 1879, has frequently been described as the first modern Swedish novel. 9. 10. In Sweden, Strindberg is known as an essayist, painter, poet, and especially as a novelist and playwright, but in other countries he is known mostly as a playwright. Naturalism is a movement in European drama and theater that developed in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It refers to theater that attempts to create an illusion of reality through a range of dramatic and theatrical strategies. Interest in naturalism especially flourished with the French playwrights of the time, but the most successful example is Strindberg's play Miss Julie, citation needed, which was written with the intention to abide by both his own particular version of naturalism, and also the version described by the French novelist and literary theoretician, Émile Zola. 2. Themes. Edit. One theme of the play is Darwinism. 1-2, a theory that was a significant influence on the author during his naturalistic period. This theme is stated explicitly in the preface, where Strindberg describes his 2 lead characters, Miss Julie and Jean, as vying against each other in an evolutionary, life and death, battle for a survival of the fittest. The character of Miss Julie represents the last of a dying aristocratic breed and serves to characterize women in modernity. Jean represents one who is clambering upwards and who is fitter to thrive because he is more adaptable in terms of the life roles he can take on. The play has various themes, partly because Miss Julie's actions are motivated by a range of factors and influences: her class, her desires and impulsive nature, her father, and the dynamic traumas of her family histories. In utilizing the naturalistic style, the author goes against the dominant theatrical idea that says that characters should be written with only one primary motivation. 3, 4. The author's preface. Edit. Miss Julie is preceded by an author's preface, which is considered a significant manifesto of naturalism in the theater. In it, Strindberg states that the source of the play is an actual story he once heard, which made a strong impression on him, and which seemed appropriate for tragedy, for it still seems tragic to see someone favored by fortune go under, much more to see a family die out. 5. Strindberg describes both Jean and Miss Julie as representations of their classes and society. The people in the play are described by Strindberg as modern characters living in an age of transition, more vacillating and disintegrating than their predecessors, a mixture of the old and the new. 6. The preface to the play may not be the best guide to the play, and is at times in variance with the play itself. The preface urges naturalism and deterministic readings of the play, but the play seems to offer more anti-naturalism and even feminist readings. Strindberg's play may have other values than his own critical assessment. 7. In the preface, Strindberg discusses aristocracy and classism beyond what occurs in the play itself. Naturalism. Edit. Strindberg wrote this play with the intention of abiding by the theories of naturalism, both his own version, and also the version described by the French novelist and literary theoretician Émile Zola. Zola's term for naturalism is la nouvelle formule. The 3 primary principles of naturalism, faire vrai, faire grand and faire simple, are: faire vrai. The play should be realistic and the result of a careful study of human behavior and psychology. The characters should be flesh and blood, their motivations and actions should be grounded in their heredity and environment. The presentation of the play in terms of the setting and performances should be realistic and not flamboyant or theatrical. The single setting of Miss Julie, for example, is a kitchen. Fair grand. The conflicts in the play should be issues of meaningful, life-altering significance, not small or petty. Fair simple. The play should be simple, not cluttered with complicated subplots or lengthy expositions. Strindberg believed that French playwrights had been unable to achieve naturalism in their writings, and he felt that he could. Miss Julie is not only successful as a naturalistic drama, but it is a play that has achieved the rare distinction of being performed on stages all over the world every year since it was written in 1888. 8. Characters. Edit. Miss Julie, strong-willed daughter of the Count who owns the estate. Raised by her late mother to think like and act like a man, she is a confused individual. She is aware of the power she holds, but switches between being above the servants and flirting with Jean, her father's manservant. She longs to fall from her pillar, an expression symbolically put across as a recurring dream she has. Jean, manservant to the Count. He tells a story of seeing Miss Julie many times as a child and loving her even then, but the truth of the story is later denied. There is good evidence both for and against its veracity. Jean left the town and traveled widely, working many different jobs as he went, before finally returning to work for the Count. He has aspirations to rise from his station in life and manage his own hotel, and Miss Julie is part of his plan. He is alternately kind and callous. Despite his aspirations, he is rendered servile by the mere sight of the Count's gloves and boots. Christine, the cook in the Count's household. She is devoutly religious and apparently betrothed to Jean, although they refer to this marriage almost jokingly. The Count, Miss Julie's father. He is never seen, but his gloves and his boots are on stage, serving as a reminder of his power. When a bell sounds, his presence is also noted more strongly. Plot. Edit. The play opens with Jean walking on the stage, the set being the kitchen of the manor. He drops the Count's boots off to the side but still within view of the audience. His clothing shows that he is a valet. Jean talks to Christine about Miss Julie's peculiar behavior. He considers her mad since she went to the barn dance, danced with the gamekeeper, and tried to waltz with Jean, a mere servant of the Count. Christine delves into Miss Julie's background, stating how, unable to face her family after the humiliation of breaking her engagement, she stayed behind to mingle with the servants at the dance instead of going with her father to the Midsummer's Eve celebrations. Miss Julie got rid of her fiancé seemingly because he refused her demand that he jump over a riding whip she was holding. The incident, apparently witnessed by Jean, was similar to training a dog to jump through a hoop. Jean takes out a bottle of fine wine with a yellow seal, and reveals, by the way he flirts with her, that he and Christine are engaged. Noticing a stench, Jean asks what Christine is cooking so late on Midsummer's Eve. The pungent mixture turns out to be an abortifacient for Miss Julie's dog, which was impregnated by the gatekeeper's mongrel. Jean calls Miss Julie too stuck up in some ways and not proud enough in others, traits apparently inherited from her mother. Despite Miss Julie's character flaws, Jean finds her beautiful, or perhaps simply a stepping stone to achieve his lifelong goal of owning an inn. When Miss Julie enters and asks Christine if the meal has finished cooking, Jean instantly shapes up, becoming charming and polite. Jokingly, he asks if the women are gossiping about secrets or making a witch's broth for seeing Miss Julie's future suitor. After more niceties, Miss Julie invites Jean once more to dance the waltz, at which point he hesitates, pointing out that he already promised Christine a dance and that the gossip generated by such an act would be savage. Almost offended by this response, Julie justifies her request by pulling rank. She is the lady of the house and must have the best dancer as her partner. Then, insisting that rank does not matter, she convinces Jean to waltz with her. When they return, Miss Julie recounts a dream of climbing up a pillar and being unable to get down. Jean responds with a story of creeping into her walled garden as a child. He saw it as the Garden of Eden, guarded by angry angels with flaming swords, and, from under a pile of stinking weeds, gazing at her longingly. He says he was so distraught with this unrequited love that, after seeing her at a Sunday church service, he tried to die beautifully and pleasantly by sleeping in a bin of oats strewn with elderflowers, as sleeping under an elder tree was thought to be dangerous. At this point Jean and Miss Julie notice some servants heading up to the house, singing a song that mocks the pair of them. They hide in Jean's room. Although Jean swears he won't take advantage of her there, when they emerge later it becomes clear that the two have had sex. Now they are forced to figure out how to deal with it, as Jean theorizes that they can no longer live in the same household because he feels they will be tempted to continue their relationship until they are caught. Now he confesses that he was only pretending when he said he had tried to commit suicide out of love of her. Furiously, Miss Julie tells him of how her mother raised her to be submissive to no man. They then decide to run away together to start a hotel, with Jean running it and Miss Julie providing the capital. Miss Julie agrees and steals some of her father's money, but angers Jean when she insists on bringing her little bird along, saying that the bird is the only creature that loves her, after her dog Diana was unfaithful to her. When Miss Julie insists that she would rather kill the bird than see it in the hands of strangers, Jean cuts off its head. In the midst of this confusion, Christine comes downstairs, ready to go to church. She is shocked by Jean and Miss Julie's planning and unmoved when Miss Julie asks her to come along with them as head of the kitchen of the hotel. Christine explains to Miss Julie about God and forgiveness and heads off for church, telling them as she leaves that she will tell the stable masters not to let them take out any horses so that they cannot run off. Shortly after, they receive word that Miss Julie's father, the Count, has returned. At this, both lose courage and find themselves unable to go through with their plans. Miss Julie realizes that she has nothing to her name, as her thoughts and emotions were taught to her by her mother and her father. She asks Jean if he knows of any way out for her. He takes a shaving razor and hands it to her. The play ends as she walks through the door with the razor, presumably to commit suicide. Miss Julie is a naturalistic play written by August Strindberg in 1888. It explores themes of class, gender, and power through the interactions of its two main characters, Miss Julie, the daughter of a count, and Jean, a valet. The play is set on Midsummer's Eve on the estate of Miss Julie's father. Their relationship becomes increasingly complex and destructive as the night progresses, ultimately leading to a tragic end. Miss Julie is considered a classic modern drama and is often studied and performed in theaters around the world. Miss Julie is set on Midsummer's Eve in the kitchen of the Count's manor. The play opens with Jean, the valet, and Christine, the cook, preparing for the festivities. Miss Julie, the Count's daughter, enters, distraught over her broken engagement. She flirts with Jean, who is initially resistant but is ultimately seduced by her. As the evening progresses, Miss Julie and Jean's relationship becomes increasingly intimate and volatile. They discuss their dreams and desires, revealing their innermost thoughts and feelings. Miss Julie expresses her desire to escape her social class, while Jean dreams of owning his own hotel. Their flirtation turns into a physical relationship, which is discovered by Christine. Distraught, Christine leaves the household, and Miss Julie and Jean are left alone. They continue their passionate affair, but their differences in class and social status become more pronounced. The climax of the play occurs when Miss Julie suggests that she and Jean run away together. Jean initially agrees but then has second thoughts, realizing the consequences of such an action. Miss Julie, feeling trapped and desperate, decides to take her own life, and Jean reluctantly agrees to help her. In the final moments of the play, Jean and Miss Julie's fate is left ambiguous, with Jean contemplating his future and Miss Julie's body lying on the floor. The play ends with the sound of the bell ringing for morning, signaling the end of the Midsummer's Eve festivities and the beginning of a new day. Here's a brief sketch of the main characters in Miss Julie, along with an example of their behavior or dialogue. Miss Julie, the daughter of the Count. Miss Julie is portrayed as a complex character struggling with her own desires and societal expectations. She is impulsive, passionate, and often manipulative. Example: Miss Julie's flirtatious behavior towards Jean, especially when she tries to seduce him despite knowing the consequences. Jean, the valet of the Count. Jean is ambitious and manipulative. He is also resentful of his lower social status and desires to climb the social ladder. Example: Jean's willingness to engage in a physical relationship with Miss Julie, despite knowing it could ruin his reputation and future. Christine, the cook in the Count's household. Christine is a practical and loyal character. She is often the voice of reason and morality in the play. Example: Christine's decision to leave the household upon discovering Miss Julie and Jean's affair, as she cannot condone such behavior. These characters interact in a way that highlights the themes of class, gender, and power dynamics, leading to a tragic and dramatic conclusion. Here are further insights into the main characters of Miss Julie. Miss Julie. Complexity. Miss Julie is a deeply complex character, torn between her desires for freedom and her upbringing as a member of the aristocracy. She exhibits both strength and vulnerability, often in the same moment. Symbolism. Miss Julie can be seen as a symbol of the changing social order, challenging traditional gender roles and class structures. Emotional turmoil. Her actions are often driven by her emotional turmoil, such as her impulsive decision to seduce Jean or her ultimate decision to take her own life. Jean. Ambition. Jean is driven by ambition and a desire to improve his social standing. This ambition leads him to manipulate others, including Miss Julie, to further his own goals. Cynicism. Jean is often portrayed as cynical, viewing the world through a lens of self-interest and pragmatism. Complex relationship with Miss Julie. His relationship with Miss Julie is multifaceted, ranging from genuine affection to manipulation and exploitation. Christine. Morality. Christine is depicted as a moral compass in the play, often serving as a voice of reason and conscience. Loyalty. Despite her moral convictions, Christine is also portrayed as loyal, particularly to Miss Julie's family. Resilience. Christine's decision to leave the household can also be seen as an act of resilience, as she refuses to condone behavior that goes against her principles. These characters, with their complexities and conflicts, drive the narrative of Miss Julie, and contribute to its exploration of themes such as class, gender, and power. Miss Julie explores several themes, including class struggle. Example: Miss Julie's relationship with Jean highlights the tension between the upper and lower classes. Her attempt to transcend class boundaries ultimately leads to tragedy. Gender roles. Example: Miss Julie's defiance of traditional gender roles, such as her pursuit of Jean and her rejection of societal expectations, challenges the norms of the time. Power dynamics. Example: the power dynamics between Miss Julie and Jean, influenced by their respective social statuses, fluctuate throughout the play, highlighting the complexities of power in relationships. Sexuality and desire. Example: the sexual tension between Miss Julie and Jean reflects their inner desires and the constraints placed upon them by society. Freedom and restraint. Example: Miss Julie's desire for freedom clashes with the constraints of her social class, illustrating the struggle between personal freedom and societal expectations. Fate and determinism. Example: the tragic ending of the play suggests a sense of inevitability, as the characters' fates seem predetermined by their circumstances and social conditions. These themes are interwoven throughout the play, contributing to its depth and complexity. They reflect the societal norms and conflicts of Strindberg's time while also resonating with universal themes that continue to be relevant today. Miss Julie employs several narrative techniques and plot styles to create its dramatic impact. Realism. The play is written in a style that emphasizes realism, portraying the characters and their interactions in a naturalistic manner. This realism helps to convey the intensity and authenticity of the characters' emotions and conflicts. One-act structure. Miss Julie is typically structured as a one-act play, with a continuous narrative that unfolds in real time. This structure creates a sense of immediacy and intensity, as the audience witnesses the events of the play as they happen. Flashbacks and exposition. While Miss Julie is primarily focused on the present action, there are moments when characters reflect on past events through flashbacks or exposition. These moments provide context for the characters' motivations and deepen our understanding of their actions. Symbolism. The play makes use of symbolism to enhance its themes and characters. For example, the setting of Midsummer's Eve is symbolic of fertility and renewal, echoing the themes of desire and transformation in the play. Dramatic irony. Throughout the play, there are moments of dramatic irony where the audience knows more about the characters' motivations and intentions than the characters themselves. This adds tension and depth to the narrative, as the audience anticipates the consequences of the characters' actions. Intimate setting. The play is set in a single location, the kitchen of the Count's manor, which creates a sense of intimacy and claustrophobia. This setting enhances the psychological drama of the play, as the characters are confined to a limited space, heightening the intensity of their interactions. Overall, Miss Julie employs a range of narrative techniques and plot styles to create a compelling and impactful theatrical experience. Here's a breakdown of the settings, tone, writing style, genre, setting, and dialogue in Miss Julie. Settings. The play is set entirely in the kitchen of the Count's manor on Midsummer's Eve. This single setting creates a sense of claustrophobia and intensifies the interactions between the characters. Tone. The tone of Miss Julie is one of tension, passion, and tragedy. The interactions between the characters are fraught with emotion, and there is a sense of inevitability to the unfolding events. Writing style. August Strindberg's writing style in Miss Julie is naturalistic, emphasizing the realistic portrayal of characters and their dialogue. The language is often raw and intense, reflecting the inner turmoil of the characters. Genre. Miss Julie is typically classified as a naturalistic drama. It explores the inner lives of its characters in a realistic manner, focusing on psychological depth and social issues. Setting. The setting of Miss Julie is crucial to the play's themes and atmosphere. The kitchen, as a domestic space, represents the confines of societal expectations and the characters' struggles against them. Dialogue. The dialogue in Miss Julie is central to the play's exploration of power dynamics, class struggle, and gender roles. The characters' interactions are filled with subtext and nuance, revealing their true motivations and desires. Overall, Miss Julie is a compelling and intense drama that uses its setting, tone, writing style, genre, setting, and dialogue to explore complex themes and create a memorable theatrical experience. Miss Julie is significant for several reasons, both in terms of its historical context and its lasting impact on literature and drama. Relevance to its time. When it was written in 1888, Miss Julie was groundbreaking in its exploration of class, gender, and power dynamics. It challenged the societal norms of the time and sparked controversy with its frank depiction of sexuality and its critique of the aristocracy. Legacy in literature. Miss Julie is considered one of the classic works of modern drama. Its naturalistic style and psychological depth have influenced generations of playwrights and authors, including Tennessee Williams and Eugene O'Neill. Contribution to dramatic form. The play's one-act structure, real-time narrative, and use of symbolism were innovative for their time and have since become common techniques in modern drama. Impact on gender studies. The character of Miss Julie, with her defiance of traditional gender roles and her complex psychology, has been studied by scholars in the field of gender studies for its insights into the construction of femininity and masculinity. Exploration of human nature. At its core, Miss Julie is a study of human nature and the ways in which individuals are shaped by their social environment. Its exploration of desire, power, and morality continues to resonate with audiences today. Overall, Miss Julie remains a significant work of literature and drama, both for its historical importance and its enduring relevance to contemporary audiences. August Strindberg, the author of Miss Julie, was a Swedish playwright, novelist, and essayist who lived from 1849 to 1912. He is considered one of the pioneers of modern drama and is known for his innovative use of naturalism and psychological realism. Some key features of Strindberg's work include naturalism. Strindberg was a proponent of naturalism, a literary movement that sought to portray life as it is, without idealization or romanticism. Miss Julie is a prime example of naturalistic drama, with its focus on realistic characters and settings. Psychological realism. Strindberg was also known for his exploration of the human psyche. His characters are often complex and multifaceted, driven by deep-seated desires and motivations. In Miss Julie, this psychological realism is evident in the portrayal of the title character's inner turmoil. Symbolism. While Strindberg's work is rooted in realism, he also made use of symbolism to enhance his themes. In Miss Julie, the setting of Midsummer's Eve and the imagery of the Wheel of Fortune are examples of symbolic elements that add depth to the play. Social critique. Strindberg's work often contains a strong element of social critique, particularly of the class system and gender roles. Miss Julie can be seen as a critique of the rigid social hierarchies of 19th-century Sweden, as well as a commentary on the limitations placed on women in that society. Experimental techniques. Throughout his career, Strindberg experimented with various dramatic techniques, including nonlinear narrative structures and expressionistic elements. While Miss Julie is more straightforward in its narrative style, it still showcases Strindberg's innovative approach to drama. Overall, August Strindberg's work, including Miss Julie, is characterized by its realism, psychological depth, and social commentary, making him a seminal figure in the development of modern theater.